It was discovered right before that 2-day meeting that the FDA was hiding over 446,000 reports of women harmed by breast implants. They were allowing the manufacturers to report them kind of in a more quiet way where it wasn't disclosed to the public.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Digest This podcast. I'm your host, Bethany Cameron, and today on the show, I have Robyn Towt. She is a 3-time cancer survivor who was harmed by a medical device and is an advocate for those in the breast implant illness medical community, as well as those with any medical device in their body. And in today's episode, we cover the politics on breast implants, symptoms of breast implant illness, what the FDA is hiding from the general public, advice for those considering implants, getting them in or getting them removed, and the new cancer popping up from breast implants. We also cover things like financial help for anyone looking to get them removed, so many other things like future of breast implants. And get this, you guys, they're even putting chips, microchips in breast implants. So much is in this episode. And even if you don't have breast implants, you probably know someone who does. And this episode could potentially save someone's life by the information provided. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Research actually shows the average cleaning product contains chemicals that are in fact affecting our lungs. Hazardous chemicals can be found in bleach-based products, disinfectants, degreasers containing several other chemicals commonly referred to as EGBE. It's a common ingredient in liquid soaps and cosmetics even, hairsprays, paint, glue, as well as industrial and household cleaning products. EGBE is listed as possibly toxic to the eyes and skin, central nervous system, respiratory system, kidneys, and liver. The Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry states it also affects development and reproduction. That's just another reason why I use Branch Basics for my cleaning needs. You just mix their non-toxic concentrate with water in a glass spray bottle and you're good to go and clean your entire home. Everything from your kitchen to your bathroom to your living room and even your kids' toys. Branch Basics is also safe and gentle for your pets. And I've even personally used it to wash my fruits, veggies, and delicate berries. It's 100% biodegradable, fragrance-free, and contains no harmful substances, obviously. Their concentrate is derived from plants and minerals, and the best part is that you only have to buy one product, which is their do-it-all concentrate. And their concentrate literally lasts forever. I probably use it a little bit too much, but it does last a very, very long time. That's all you need. So if you want to clean up your home and your health by using Branch Basics, they're offering my listeners 15% off. Just use code LITTLESIPPER at checkout to receive a discount. I recommend starting with their starter kit, which includes everything you'll need with simple instructions. Again, you can go to branchbasics.com and enter code LITTLESIPPER at checkout. That's LILSIPPER for a discount. If you're not subscribed to my newsletters, they come out every Friday and they're called Friday Finds. This is information that only my subscribers get in their inbox. I share stuff like non-toxic air fryers and kitchen appliances, new food finds, product recalls, food news, and food products that aren't even on the market yet, but I've got the scoop. This is not published anywhere else and cannot be found on my blog. So be sure you're in the know and subscribe to my weekly newsletters by going to littlesipper.com/subscribe and enter your email. That's all you have to do. So go to LILSIPPER.com/subscribe. to get exclusive information on everything food. Thank you so much, Robyn, for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure to just hear your story, and I'm so excited for my listeners to now hear not only your story, but really what's happening in the breast implant industry and cosmetic industry in general.
Absolutely. It's something that I think more people are becoming aware of, but there's still a lot to be known about it. So I appreciate the opportunity to come on and share the experience.
Yeah. So you are a 3-time cancer survivor, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
I had my first cancer when I was 23. I had lymphoma. Had a pretty good run for about 2 decades. Had a few skin cancer places taken off of me where I had really bad radiation burns from my cancer. And then ultimately in 2017, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And that's what kind of brought me here today and into my advocacy work. You know, being a 3-time cancer survivor, I just kind of wanted to get the experience over and done with as quickly as possible. And of course, I trusted my team of doctors. And as a breast cancer patient, I had a whole team of doctors managing my care. I had an oncologist, a breast surgeon, a plastic surgeon. I didn't do any therapy or chemo or radiation. So I truly just had surgery. And, you know, with my health history, I'd had multiple surgeries in the past, just biopsies and different things that I've had to have removed over the years. But this surgery took me down. And I had a double mastectomy and I had reconstruction with breast implants. And, you know, in 2017, I Googled, are breast implants safe? And nothing really alarming came up on Google. So, you know, I just went with what my doctors, kind of the narrative with breast cancer is you get a double mastectomy, or, I mean, it depends on the patient and what stages, but surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, and reconstruction. So I did it. And I just my health continued to decline. I just kept getting sicker and sicker. And I started joining breast cancer forums because I was confused and felt lost. And a lot of the women there were saying they were having the same types of symptoms from chemotherapy, but I wasn't doing chemotherapy. So things just weren't adding up in my book. And it wasn't until I met another breast cancer patient who told me she actually had a breast augmentation 12 years prior, and her health just declined over more than a decade until she figured it out. So that made sense to me. I'm like, okay, maybe it is the implants that are making me sick. And then I started hearing about there were these groups on social media, which at the time I wasn't even on social media. And when I started really digging more into that, I realized I wasn't alone. There's literally millions of women on the planet that have breast implants, and millions of them are suffering. So it was very eye-opening to me that none of my doctors told me this. So I made the decision rather quickly to have them removed, and I only had them in for 4 months.
Okay, and that was going to be my question, was how long did you have them in before you started noticing symptoms?
I noticed symptoms right away. And I think my case isn't typically what we see. I've been an advocate in this community for over 5 years now. And typically what I see is women saying, I got my implants for cosmetic reasons or reconstruction purposes. And I didn't feel great, but my health just continued to decline over a period of years. I feel like that's the normal. And as women, right, we tend to chalk things up to, well, I'm getting older, or I'm stressed at my job, or I'm chasing around my kids, or, I'm in a stressful marriage. And we just kind of accept that as a normal thing for women to be tired, fatigued, exhausted. My thyroid isn't functioning properly. My hair starts falling out. And then we go to doctors maybe to try and get to the root cause, but the medical community hasn't been aware of this.
Well, and some people think maybe it's hormones, and it could be hormones, but what's causing it are the implants.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, why are your hormones out of whack? Why is your endocrine system disrupted? Why is your lymphatic system not draining the toxins from your body? Because the breast implants are full of these toxic chemicals that impede all of that and just literally change our bodies in ways that aren't good. So when I started really digging into the research of what breast implants are and what they do in the body and how they've been affecting all of these I mean, there's literally hundreds of thousands of women right now in Facebook support groups trying to get help, trying to find a surgeon who understands the importance of how to remove these properly. Because, since I started doing my advocacy work, a lot of information has come out, but the general public and the medical community aren't aware of like the many cancers that are caused by breast implants. And that can be a scary thing, I mean, we're told that things are relatively safe. When you start seeing these cancers that develop, it can be really scary when, depending on what type you're diagnosed with. I mean, this latest one that the FDA is talking about, it doesn't respond to chemotherapy or radiation. It's highly aggressive. It metastasizes quickly. 50% of patients that are diagnosed with this squamous cell carcinoma from breast implants, they're dead within 6 months.
What is it called?
Squamous cell carcinoma.
And is it specifically caused by breast implants?
The one that's caused by breast implants is highly aggressive. And there's been a lot, I'm so glad I have the opportunity to talk about this, because there's been a lot of misinformation about squamous cell carcinoma. Most people know it as a skin cancer. I live in Arizona, so we have a lot of people that are diagnosed with skin cancer just because we live in a highly sunny place. And your most popular skin cancers, of course, there's rare ones too, but we have basal cell carcinoma, which is very treatable. Squamous cell carcinoma, also very treatable. And then, of course, melanoma, which is extremely dangerous. Those are skin cancers. But to be clear, when the squamous cell carcinoma develops in the breast implant capsule around the breast implant, yes, it's the same type of cancer, but it becomes highly aggressive when it's formed by breast implants. And, the FDA put out an alert about this back in September of 2022. And I feel like it kind of got lost in the news because they announced it the same day that the Queen died. So the news worldwide was flooded with news about the Queen. And I don't really think anyone caught wind of this huge FDA announcement of this.
Do you think that was on purpose? They announced it that same day? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, news outlets are, announce big things on Friday night at 5 p.m. That no one's watching it. But absolutely, I think it was the timing of the announcement. They were sitting on it. They've known about these cancers since the early 90s.
Yeah.
So it's really taken them a long time to start talking about these cancers.
Yeah, it's interesting. They announce it that day and then never do a follow-up, a week later. You never really hear a lot about it, if you do at all.
Now I would follow up in March.
In March. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you're bringing light to it. And I want to get into a few things of, if people listening have breast implants, what they should do, methods, solutions, things like that. But before we do that, let's just talk about breast implant illness for a second. And then I really want to go back into the politics of things, because I know there's a lot to dig into and things that people just aren't aware of on purpose and that are hidden from them. But taking a step back, breast implant illness symptoms, now they can be a variety. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. The most common symptoms, and the FDA has had meetings about this. In fact, I've attended 2 of the FDA meetings. One was a closed meeting in 2018. And then they had a public hearing that was 2 days long in 2019. And that's kind of when all of this really started becoming public and people became more aware about it. It was discovered right before that 2-day meeting that the FDA was hiding over 446,000 reports of women harmed by breast implants. They were allowing the manufacturers to report them kind of in a more quiet way where it wasn't disclosed to the public. So when that came out, I think it kind of put the FDA in a hot seat that they had to do something about this and at least address it. So at that meeting in 2019, they did admit that breast implants cause breast implant illness symptoms. We had doctors that got up and testified. We had over 60 patient advocates, including myself, that went and testified. And just sharing what our experience was with breast implants. So the FDA on their website, if you just type in FDA systemic symptoms of breast implant illness, they say that the top 10 symptoms are, and we're seeing it in the community too, like fatigue. And I mean chronic fatigue. My fatigue was so bad, I couldn't function throughout the day without a nap. I couldn't do my daily exercise. I'm used to walking 5 to 7 miles a day for 20 years, and I couldn't go more than a half a mile. Joint pain is a very common symptom, chronic infections, and that can be anything from UTIs to sinus infections, skin and hair changes. I actually lost a lot of my hair. I had 2 bald spots up here, and I lost about half of my eyelashes. Digestive issues are huge with breast implant illness. And
that was one big for me because, as you know, like I had my breast implants removed and I got them back. And I believe I think I was 21. So this was 2011 when I got them. And I had them for almost 10 years. And again, gut issues and candida, so many different things, autoimmune issues, just randomly. I would get sick. I would just get the flu all the time, all the time. So just to your point, gut issues are huge.
Yes, very common. Skin rashes. I had rashes all over. I had severe insomnia. I was 44 years old at the time, and I'd never had problems sleeping. Even when I had kids, I always was able to sleep well at night, and I just couldn't sleep. There was something going on in my body. I knew right away something was wrong because I just, over the years been so in tune with my body. I just couldn't figure out what it was or why. And the solutions that people were telling me didn't apply to me, like chemotherapy and radiation. And this is just your new normal after breast cancer. And I'm like, before I knew I had breast cancer, I felt great. I was exercising. I was keeping up with 2 teenage kids. So when I heard about breast implant illness and this woman shared her experience with me, she told me she was sick. And I said, what do you mean sick? And she told me all her symptoms. And I was literally checking them off one by one. I had chronic neck and shoulder pain, and I was in physical therapy the whole time I had my implants. And it just was mind-boggling to me that this happened so quickly. And I went back to my surgeon and I told her all the problems I was having, headaches every single day. And she just gave me pills.
So you went back to the surgeon that put your breast implants in, and they didn't acknowledge anything about breast implant illness. This could be a possibility. And I'm sure, do you feel like they know?
Absolutely. In fact, I explanted, which that's the term we use for removing your implants. I removed my implants with a different surgeon. And after I was about 6 months post-op, and so I had breast cancer. So when I removed my implants, I have nothing. I'm completely flat. And I actually woke up from that surgery feeling amazing. I could breathe again. I had a lot of trouble breathing. I felt like I couldn't get a good deep breath, and I would get winded very fast. And I'm not talking going out for a jog, just walking from one side of my house to another, I would feel out of breath. I always felt like I was breathing through a straw. So immediately when I woke up from surgery, I could breathe again. I felt clear-headed. Brain fog is a really common symptom of breast implant illness. And I just felt like I had more energy. I felt healthier. I felt like I wasn't dying anymore.
Immediately. That's crazy.
And that doesn't happen with everybody, because some women, it took them a really long time to get that sick. And so it's going to take some time to heal the body and fix all the things that slowly started taking over. So, but for me, because I had them in for such a short time, I felt so great immediately. And it was a blessing and a curse. It was a blessing because I was like, wow, I feel like Superwoman. But at the same time, I was boggled. I was like, what just happened to me? How could I have been that sick just last week?
Yeah. I mean, and that is major surgery in 4 months to get implants and then to remove them all in 4 months. I mean, people are still recovering from surgery 4 months later. So this is huge.
Yeah. I had 3 surgeries in 7 months. I had my mastectomy with what they call tissue expanders. That was in May. I had the implants put in August, and then I had the implants taken out and went flat in December. So 3 surgeries in 7 months, and my explant was the easiest surgery because I felt great afterwards. I didn't have those foreign objects in my body causing my body to just fight 24/7. I have these women in the groups that I've helped, hundreds of women over the years. And it's like, well, I got diagnosed with lupus. I've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, connective tissue disease, Hashimoto's. I mean, just down and down the line of autoimmune diseases. And they think it's just normal. They think that's what happens as we get older and part of being an aging woman. And it's not. And these women have their breast implants removed. We call it the fountain of youth. We joke about it in the BII community because you literally feel and look 20 years younger. I encourage any of your listeners, if they don't know about this topic, just to Google images of breast implant illness and just seeing the before and afters in people's face. Like my face, I didn't have a lot of inflammation yet. I'm sure that would have come, but my eyes were always red. And then with my eyelashes falling out, I looked very sick. I didn't look good. And then my hair was thinning really bad and I had the bald spots. So I just started looking and feeling like a cancer patient, even though I had surgery to remove all my cancer. But after the breast implants removed, I was better. It was crazy.
That's wonderful. And for anyone that doesn't know, maybe you're thinking about getting breast implants. You have to get them replaced every 10 years. That's what they say, because obviously, they start to kind of get some wear. So at least for me, it was coming up on my 10-year mark to get them replaced. And so I thought, instead of getting them replaced, I have to go through the surgery anyways. Why not just get them removed? And to your note, I didn't notice anything immediately as far as when I got them in. I felt great, I think even for a few years, but then it kind of just slowly just started to build up, which I feel like is maybe what happens to a lot of women. And then again, when they were removed, I did feel like my arms, I had a better range of motion. Like I felt like I could just lift my arms differently. And I felt like I could breathe, like you said, a lot deeper. And then it's slow, if you have gut issues or things that are like really underlying, it will take some time. It's not like, oh, my breast implants are gone, gut issues are gone too, but that's amazing. And so what would you say maybe to those that have breast implants but are like, well, hey, I feel fine, so this is probably not affecting me? What would you say to those women?
We've had a lot of those women. I've had a lot of women reach out to me and say, I have breast implants and I should probably get them removed or replaced, but I feel fine. I don't have any issues. But then they have Hashimoto's. They're on thyroid medication. I think a lot of times the people aren't connecting what issues they're having to their implants. And it's a really good point that you brought that up, because a lot of times when women are going to just their regular practitioner, their OBGYN for their yearly checkup, the medical community isn't as aware of this as they should be. And so they're just seeing, okay, you have hormonal changes or thyroid changes, and they're putting these patients on meds. They're not looking at the root cause. Some of them don't even have on their intake forms, do you have a medical device in your body? So it's not just breast implants. I have now kind of stumbled into advocacy for other medical devices because I have patients that have the same exact symptoms from surgical mesh, from metal pins and rods. They got in a car accident and they had to have surgery on their neck, or they broke their leg playing a sport and they had to have pins and rods put in their knee or their leg. And they are displaying the same exact symptoms as people that have breast implants. So if you really start looking deep into the research of this, it's so much deeper than just breast implants, the chemicals that are in them, because we're seeing it with other devices, and it's a systemic problem. They're causing systemic health issues in the body. They're disrupting all of the systems. And when I started stumbling into other medical devices, I took a step back because I'm thinking, this is way bigger than I thought it was. And so, my partner, Terry Diaz, and I, we formed GPAC, which is the Global Patient Advocacy Coalition. And we really started connecting with patients all over the globe that have been sick, have been to over 50 doctors, 60 doctors, and no one can figure out what's wrong with them. And then it clicks, oh, I had gallbladder surgery and my surgeon put 20 clips in there to close off the blood vessels, just for a routine gallbladder surgery. So I really encourage people. I never in a million years, I'm a teacher by trade. And so I love to learn and I love to teach, but I never in a million years thought I would be reading medical journals and medical scientific studies. And just being a 3-time cancer survivor, I am pretty knowledgeable about medical terminology. So that's what really made me start learning about all of this is I started reading the medical journals. And, one day I wanted to know if breast implants, silicone ones were banned for over a decade in the 1990s. I don't know if you know that or if your listeners know that. And one day I just woke up angry and thinking, the FDA banned these ones. Why on earth would they put them back on the market, knowing they made women sick, knowing they caused, cases of cancer and autoimmune disease? So I actually went back to the FDA transcripts of the meetings that they had where they were thinking about putting these back on the market. And you can see the manufacturers were really harassing the FDA. They were convincing them that they've changed the product, they made it safer, put them back on the market. And, the FDA caved under pressure and they put them back on the market with no long-term safety studies. They didn't have the scientific data. They did encourage the manufacturers. In fact, it was part of their approval agreement. They were supposed to follow 42,000 women for 10 years. We have 4 breast implant manufacturers in the United States. Not a single one of those manufacturers followed their patients.
For anyone that loves chocolate and peanut butter, I have to tell you about Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Okay, do I have your attention? I bet you thought this was an ad for them, right? On the contrary, but I actually created my very own limited edition spin-off version of them, and you can now purchase them for a limited time because there were only limited quantities made. These peanut-free chocolate cups are paleo, keto, and vegan. They're organic certified and contain absolutely 0 sugar or sugar substitutes in the ingredient list. Just 4 simple organic ingredients made from pure cacao, cacao butter, freshly ground coconut, and cashew butter. There's only 1 gram of sugar in these that naturally occurs in the cashews. There's even 3 grams of fiber per chocolate cup to help feed the good bacteria in your gut. And the compounds in pure quality unsweetened chocolate have actually been shown to help with gut health and the probiotics in your belly to thrive. I wanted to create something that's never been created, offered, or on the market before for everyone looking for a better nut butter chocolate cup alternative that's free from peanuts, sugar alcohols, flavorings, emulsifiers, or fillers. And now there's finally something out there that exists. These won't last long, so go to eatingevolved.com/lilsipper to grab a box or 2 or 3. Again, that's eatingevolved.com/lilsipper, or you can click the link in today's show notes for one easy tap that will take you straight to the page. I hope you guys love these as much as I do. Now, I do want to get into the politics of breast implants, but also I just want to point out before we do, like, the medical devices that people have. I feel like some people, I don't want to put down those things because people have had to have knee replacements and they have to have that, so I don't want anyone to feel discouraged if they have a medical device in them because of their health issues and that's just what they had to do, for surgery. So I don't want anyone to feel down or discouraged about that.
Right. And it's true. I mean, a lot of these devices are life-saving and life-changing. I mean, my mother has a pacemaker, so I know that that's a life-saving device for her. I think if people are experiencing symptoms and they do have other devices in their body, it is very possible. A lot of the people that have injuries and they have pins and rods and whatnot, ask your doctor or your surgeon. Sometimes, a lot of times, those can be removed from the body once the bones heal back together or fuse back together. So there are solutions. Or if you know that you have bad knees and you're going to need a knee replacement surgery in a couple of years, really start doing your research on the different products that are out there, because there's so many different types of knee replacements, hip replacements. Some are made from ceramics, some are made from metals, some are made from plastic. So it's really important to research the device that your doctor is talking about putting into your body, and maybe even do some simple testing before you get that device. I had no idea that breast implants contained nickel. I have an allergy to nickel. I can't wear like cheap earrings or jewelry because my body just reacts with it. And if I had known that my breast implants had nickel in them, I wouldn't have gotten anything with nickel. So if you know you have a reaction to certain products or certain chemicals, look into a different option, because sometimes we just can't help it. I mean, if you're in a car accident and you have a bad injury and that's what the doctor needs to do to put you back together, but though sometimes if you request it ahead of time, they can do the surgery where they can go back in and remove those devices. So it's really just about informed consent and awareness and knowing what's out there, knowing what your options are, and exploring the best options for you. And if you do have to have a medical device and you feel like you're starting to react to it, there's so many things that you can do for your health, things that you can eat, things that you can stay away from, that you can optimize your health with a life-saving medical device in your body. I mean, if it's something that's totally elective, like even though I had breast cancer and I had a double mastectomy, I still consider my breast implants elective surgery because I don't need them. I don't need them to survive. Some women want them. Some women prefer to have a certain shape to their body. So that's their option, but there's other options out there. Breast implants aren't the only way to have breast reconstruction. So talk to your doctor, encourage, and explore other opportunities to reconstruct if that's what you feel you want after having a double mastectomy. So I'm glad you brought that up, because there's always options out there and there's ways to optimize your health if you feel like it's something that you can't get out of your body.
Yeah. And I even know there's actually, I'm sure you've heard of this, but if someone wants some breast enhancements, I've heard that you can take the fat off of like other areas of your body and then redistribute that fat in the breast area. So I don't know if that's safe. Don't quote me on this, but I've heard that this is an option. So if maybe you're a breast cancer survivor and it's just something that you really want, maybe look into that option of the fat distributing and all of that and see if you're a candidate. I don't know if it's safe, so I'm just throwing it out there. But speaking of informed consent, so why do you think doctors never really inform their patients?
I've done a lot of research on the informed consent process, and that was probably the most frustrating part of my experience. I would have made different decisions if I was having that informed consent conversation with my doctor. So to be clear, my doctor did give me a packet of things to sign and initial, saying, this is what we're doing in your surgery. They go over, mostly plastic surgeons will go over the surgical risks. Like you could get an infection, you could die while under anesthesia, and complications are rare. But very rarely do they actually get into the in-depth conversations of how the breast implants will affect your health. And from a plastic surgery standpoint, most of what their surgeries are cosmetic, and, just they look at the cosmetic results. So I think the conversations they're having with patients are more how your breasts are going to look, what's going to happen after you've had them for a few years, when will you need another surgery? But there's so many women coming forward and speaking out about the fact that they're getting sick from these, that we feel we've worked really hard with the plastic surgery community because we feel their informed consent process should be changed up a little bit, to the point that I had a state law passed in Arizona where I live. And I have an informed consent law passed where doctors have to go through a patient checklist with patients, and they have to share more in-depth information about the systemic symptoms that can happen and what to look for. Because honestly, if you take a healthy 21 or 22, 25-year-old woman who just wants a breast augmentation, many of those, if you haven't had any health complications your whole life, you don't know what lupus is. And I signed off and initialed off on things like lupus, fibromyalgia, connective tissue disease, but I didn't know what those were. I had no idea what those were. So when you start having severe joint pain or insomnia or skin rashes, you're not connecting the dots. But I made the checklist really easy for patients to understand, because medical terminology can be very difficult sometimes to understand. So I would use the medical terminology like lupus, fibromyalgia, connective tissue disease, multiple sclerosis, but then in layman's terms that are easy to understand, I would write what symptoms to look out for: joint pain, swelling, inflammation, chronic fatigue. And that way, if patients do start feeling those, they can go back and connect the dots a lot easier. Because I have people that I've connected with in the community that were sick for 10 or 15 years just because they couldn't connect those dots. And they could have gotten years back with their children or their spouse if they could have just been aware of it more early and then had the surgery to remove them and have a better chance, of healing quicker and getting their life and their health back. So it's really about informed consent. We should know whether it's medical devices or a drug that our doctor has prescribed us, the package inserts with all the tiny, verbiage on them. We should really read those things because those things can happen. And I think the reason plastic surgeons aren't having those conversations is they think it's rare. And that is where we go down a slippery slope because, when I was testifying in 2019 to the FDA, at the time, I had a couple 100,000 women in the breast implant illness community. And if you just look at like a huge football stadium where they would play Super Bowl, I said this in my FDA speech, fill that stadium with women and they are all sick from breast implants. That's not rare. That's a big problem. And so I think over the past few decades, even when these surgeons go to their medical conferences and take continuing education classes, nobody's been talking about this because they've considered it rare. And really, it wasn't until 2019 when some of these things started coming to light. And then all of a sudden, social media influencers, actors, or, actresses, singers, all these famous people started coming forth with their stories and sharing. And it's amazing because they have a platform to do that where they can reach so many other people. And then women are connecting the dots. They're like, wait a second, I got breast implants 5 years ago and I have 10 of the symptoms that woman just talked about on her Instagram reel. Maybe that's what's causing my problems because none of my doctors know. So unfortunately, but fortunately, it's taken, social media and influencers and these platforms for people to really start learning about what could happen.
Yeah. And I feel like it also could be put on the back burner where, for example, if someone is having symptoms from breast implants, then maybe their doctor gives them some medication. And then that medication is giving them these other symptoms. And then they blame the medication for giving them all these side effects. And then you just kind of snowball into illness after illness with really, it could have been addressed a lot earlier on without getting all these pills and going through all these different methods that actually could be giving you more symptoms. Now, obviously the cosmetic industry is just a multi-billion-dollar industry. And so many surgeons don't want to really come out and say everything that they probably know about breast implants illness. Now, thankfully, at least my surgeon, so the surgeon that put my breast implants in also removed them. And I was very thankful. She was very open. She wanted me just to be happy and healthy. And she definitely removes them. And I could put her information in today's show notes. She's in Beverly Hills. She's awesome. Yeah, very open to doing that. But a lot of surgeons are not. And I think it could be a few reasons why. They don't want to be blamed and they don't want their business going under. And so for those that maybe they got their breast implants removed and are not still feeling well, can you talk about capsule removal and why that's so important?
It is really important. And I'll explain it as I like to explain it like an orange. Right? We have the fruit of the orange and then we have the peel around the orange. So when breast implants are put in our body immediately knows that this is a foreign object and it needs to protect us from this foreign object. So what our body does is it builds scar tissue around the breast implant. So if you think of an orange, the fleshy part that we eat is the breast implant, and then the skin around it is the orange. Most capsules aren't quite as thick as an orange peel, but they can be very thick, which we call capsular contracture. But what happens is breast implants are made with chemicals and heavy metals. I mean, I looked at the ingredients of my breast implants, and in them we have acetone, we have mercury, we have lead. I mean, these are products that have been banned from paints and stuff on the market, but they're in our breast implants. They're being implanted in our chest, above our lungs and our heart, and these vital organs that we need. So your body knows that these chemicals don't belong there, these objects don't belong there. So it starts to wall them off to protect us. So immediately, and I've read all of the manufacturer and the FDA literature on the history of breast implants, how they're made and what they do in the body. So as soon as they're put in the body, whether you have silicone or saline, they're all contained in a silicone shell. And the chemicals that make up that shell and the chemicals that make up, the silicone gel inside, they start to bleed and permeate and basically leak slowly through the shell. And so when those chemicals leak, a little bit of them will start to leak into the body. As your body builds that scar tissue capsule, the chemicals continue to leak for 10, 15 years as the implants degrade in your body. And hopefully your body will contain those chemicals in that capsule. Well, what we're finding is there's multiple cancers that are caused and they develop in that breast implant capsule. So it's really important to take that capsule out because you don't want to leave those chemicals in there to cause cancer in your body. So the best way to do it is to talk to your surgeon and tell them, look, I want the implants out. I want that whole scar capsule removed. And the best way to remove it is in one whole piece. And they use the term en bloc, which is an oncology term that you would use if you're resecting a tumor. So if you have a cancerous tumor in your body, your surgeon will remove the cancerous tumor and then the surrounding tissue to make sure they get clean margins. So it is an oncology term, but basically if you treat every capsule as if it could, because it can form cancer, you should remove it all in one piece so you're not letting any of those chemicals spill out into the body. This has been a very controversial topic in the breast implant and plastic surgeon community because there was a paper that was published last year by some plastic surgeons that are heavily paid by industry. They have made millions of dollars taken from the breast implant manufacturers. They did a research paper, and their research paper showed that women that have breast implant illness don't get any better with the capsules removed or some of the capsule left in their body. And so now they're calling that paper the science that they have behind this statement that it's not necessary to remove the capsules. But 1 month after that paper was published, the FDA announced on the day the Queen died that more cancers develop in those capsules. So why would you leave capsules in the body knowing it could develop highly aggressive cancers that could kill someone? It just doesn't make sense. So, but again, I've not only researched the history of breast implants, the FDA and how they were approved and what their approval standards and criteria were, but I've also researched the people that have done the studies. And there's a huge conflict of interest there. They want these implants on the market because they have financial interests and they're getting money from the breast implant manufacturers.
Who are these people? Can you share?
Yeah, they're the leaders of the Aesthetic Society of Plastic Surgeons. And what's so interesting is I actually wrote an article, I forgot to send it to you, but I can send it to you after the podcast. As I researched these people, I realized they worked for Allergan. They were the top Allergan key opinion leaders. And the Allergan breast implants that were recalled in 2019 for causing cancer, these people told us they were safe. These people told us these are the gold standard gummy bear implants that are going to look fabulous on you and you can keep them in. And they're the new latest and greatest thing. And then over a decade later, they're recalled for causing cancer. These same people that work for these manufacturers are the leaders of the plastic surgeon societies. They're also the people who do the presentations to teach new plastic surgeons and medical students about breast implants. See where we're going? They're also sitting on the medical journals editorial boards. So if people are doing studies on breast implants and their findings are that breast implants are dangerous and causing cancer and causing autoimmune diseases, these people that sit on the editorial boards can choose whether that study gets published or not in their medical journal. So I researched this hierarchy of how it trickles down from the manufacturer who has billions of dollars to spend The manufacturers fund the research. The manufacturers fund the surgeons that do the research. The manufacturers fund the medical classes that teach the doctors about breast implants. The manufacturers fund the medical journals.
Yeah, it's really important to know who funds these studies. And that's something I always tell my Instagram followers too, whether it's about breast implants, like you're talking about, or a simple study about why, aspartame is good for you. I'm just throwing that out there. But, who's funding this study? Well, obviously the manufacturers of aspartame, that's who's funding it, things like that. And it's really good to take note and know, I'm sure there's revolving doors and all the politics that have to go into it. Now, I've actually heard, I want to touch on this a little bit, but are microchips now being put in implants?
Yes. There's a company that is currently approved in Europe and Latin America. The company is Establishment Labs, and they have a new breast implant called Motiva. And the Motiva breast implants have microchips in them. But I think I sent you this article, and you can put it on your website or wherever your readers and listeners get information. But this company, the CEO of the company actually used to work for PIP breast implants, which are now banned worldwide because they made so many women sick. And the guy that manufactured those implants is in jail because he was using, improper ingredients. So the CEO used to work and be a distributor for that company. And even after they were banned, he continued to market and sell them in Latin America. So now he's created a new implant, and it has a microchip in them. And it's a very minimally textured surface implant. And apparently there's some criteria that there's texturization is kind of like, if you think of sandpaper, we have fine grit sandpaper, and then we have coarse. So the very heavily textured breast implants are the ones that were recalled in 2019 by Allergan. And those are like a very coarsely textured sandpaper. They have big pieces of texturization. And then as you get lower down the line to a more fine, almost barely noticeable texturization, that's what these new implants are. But it's very interesting because we are already seeing women that have these implants because they got them in Europe or Latin America. They're sick. Very sick after 2 years. We are seeing ruptures after 2 years of having these implants. And ironically, the same people that brought us those gold standard Allergan cancer-causing implants are now the clinical trial investigator plastic surgeons for this implant.
Oh, wonderful.
The same people of that hierarchy I just talked about, the aesthetic society leaders, and they sit on the medical journals and they sit on the CME boards. They are promoting and marketing these new breast implants. Now, that breast implant just finished 3 years of clinical trials in the United States. The FDA is going to approve them any day now. I'm confident. Even though we're seeing in the community, and I've read the initial reports of safety from the clinical trials in the United States, one of the same people that was pushing the Allergan recalled cancer-causing implants, she did a study and she's like, all my patients that I put these implants in, they're doing fine. I've had no problems. But I've read her written testimony in her meeting at the FDA in 2003, and she said the same exact thing about Allergan breast implants. And now they're recalled worldwide for causing cancer.
It sounds like there's no regulation of the people in charge, and no one is saying, well, no, you can't be the CEO or the whatever of this company. It's like, to put it in simpler terms, it's like someone working at a restaurant and they're known for spitting in your food. Well, now they just go to a different restaurant and, now they're hired. It seems that the people spitting in the food should never be working in a restaurant. It sounds, that's like kind of like the same concept I'm seeing in this industry, is that people, oh, well, it's been known to cause cancer. Let's just make a new thing and approve it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's essentially the breast implants that we have approved in the United States. Many of the ingredients I've read there, you can go on the FDA website and look at it's called SSED, the safety and effectiveness data sheets. And they're all containing the same types of ingredients, give or take a few, proprietary ones, but they're all the same. They're all made of the same silicone. they're all causing the same systemic problems. I'm seeing the same systemic symptoms and issues with women that have these implants in them. So it's just, like you said, it's a revolving door.
Yeah. And why do you think they're putting microchips in the implants, though?
The website says that it's for safety reasons, and so that you can easily track your implants if you lose the card that comes with them that has the serial number and the identification number on them. They can actually the microchips that they use are like the ones we put in our pets, right? When you adopt a pet, a lot of the rescue organizations put a microchip in there. So if the pet gets lost, they can run a scanner over it and it brings up the information with your name, your address. So this would bring up the information of your implant and what style it is. So if there's a recall, but that's what they say on their website. So.
Oh, that's what they say. But I feel like there's a lot more going into that and for tracking and who knows what else and who knows what really the chip can do. I mean, people just trust.
Yeah. Well, and the chips, I've actually done research on the chips. When I found out about Motiva implants, that I guarantee you they're going to be promoted as these are the new safety through innovation implants. I started researching RFID chips, and there's a lot of studies that show RFID chips cause cancer. And then again, we're putting them over our heart and lungs. There was some controversy in France about Motiva was saying their chips are safe to have an MRI with, and then it was found out that they're not, because you can't have an MRI if you have metal in your body. It can cause burns. It can cause like internal burns, because remember, these are inside the body. So I don't know. It's just for me, it's a no. I just know too much. I've done too much research, and all of the articles and all of the information is on our GPAC website if people want to know more. But then when I see the same people are involved with this, that were involved with it, I mean, why don't we clean up the first mess that we made before moving on to the next shiny new toy that's going to make us more billions of dollars? It really is tragic, because at the end of the day, I've literally seen women lose their lives over this. I've seen women lose their homes, their jobs, their career, their marriage. Some women, their families don't talk to them because they thought they were a hypochondriac, just making things up. And nobody could possibly be that sick because they look okay. It's just really sad. And
so you're saying these women have lost relationships and homes because they're telling the truth about how they're feeling?
Yeah. And their family members don't believe them because they go to 27 doctors and none of the doctors can figure out what's wrong with them. But there's a problem there too. I've gone down these rabbit holes and I'm like, why don't doctors know about this? When you go to your GP or you go to your dermatologist with a rash, why are these doctors not saying, oh, I see you have breast implants. Your body could be reacting to your breast implants. A lot of medical practitioners don't even have this on their intake forms. But the worst part of it is I have personally asked the FDA formally to let the entire medical community know the problems that can happen with breast implants because they're systemic. Women aren't going back to their plastic surgeon. Most likely, women aren't having problems with their breasts until very late stages of VII. They're having problems with their hormones, they're having problems with their skin, their hair, they're going to all these other doctors, but these doctors aren't aware that breast implants can cause this. So we have asked the FDA, they have something called a Dear Healthcare Provider letter. And the FDA has the jurisdiction to send a letter to the entire medical community saying, Dear medical community, breast implants can cause some symptoms that patients are seeing, and you need to be aware of this so that you can help properly treat and diagnose your patients in a timely manner. By not issuing a letter like this, the FDA is single-handedly impeding patient care. That's very serious to me because some of my very best friends that I've met on this journey, they've lost their house because they were buried in medical bills because it took them 12 years of going from doctor to doctor. I mean, I have women that have binders 4 inches thick full of tests, CAT scans, MRIs, brain scans, blood work, allergy tests, because they've spent thousands of dollars trying to figure out what's wrong with them. And none of their doctors knew it could come from breast implants.
Yeah, the whole medical community should be aware. That's a great point to bring up because you can go to a doctor for joint pain, irritability, fatigue, and no, they're not going to point to breast implants, nor do they even know you have them, perhaps.
Yeah, and I don't blame them because, I mean, when you think of your breast implants, it's your breast. Why would that hurt my ankles so badly with joint pain that I can't walk? I went to a consultation with a woman, and I met her there because I was running late. And so she was already back in the office when we were meeting with the doctor. And we went out for coffee afterwards. And this woman was my age. And she walked through the parking lot to her car like 100-year-old woman. I mean, just tiny steps, just shuffling to her car. And it broke my heart. And she had her breast implants removed. She lives here in Arizona. And like a year later, I was looking at her Facebook post, and she's hiking Camelback Mountain. She's out hiking with her family. And I'm kind of sitting there relishing in this joy because she couldn't walk across a parking lot to her car. Her joints hurt so bad. And then she was out hiking after she removed her implants. That to me is miraculous. That is a miraculous recovery. She got her life back. And doctors should know this, rheumatologists should know this, because that's one of the biggest issues we have is with, the joint pain and fibromyalgia, and women are just being diagnosed with these connective tissue diseases and issues. So it is a shame. And personally, I think it's criminal that the FDA, I even wrote a letter for them that they could use. I did their work for them and said, I wrote the letter for you. I used all the information off the FDA website that they do have information on their website. So I do want to be clear about that. But come on, Bethany, how many doctors do you know that spend their nights and weekends perusing the FDA website? I didn't do that, and I'm kind of a health guru. So nobody does that in their spare time. They need to take the next step. They need to let practitioners know that these are causing cancer, that these are causing autoimmune issues and systemic health problems, because then we can help these women. We can help these patients.
Robyn, you're doing such amazing work here. And I mean, what advice could you give to those who have breast implants and want them removed? But I mean, let's face it, surgery costs like at least $10,000 to get them removed. Not everyone just has that money laying around. And it's not like, I'm going to decide to quit smoking. I'm going to stop. I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to change my lifestyle to get healthy. This is like a surgery that you have to commit to that is very costly. And it's not just we're, changing our diet. So what advice could you give someone that wants to get them removed, but they just don't have the means to right now?
Yeah, I have a lot of suggestions. I think the most important thing is to find a network of support. And there are so many groups out there. There are so many social media pages where women can go and just feel like, oh my gosh, people get it. Because I felt like I was crazy. And we're told we're crazy. Some of the doctors tell us we're crazy. They refer us to psychologists. Our family members tell us we're crazy. Mine didn't, but I know a lot of women who did. So find a support system first and foremost to know, and you'll find good doctors. You'll find good practitioners that understand BII, that can help kind of optimize your health through your journey. And you want the best chance of success. The very most important thing is to find a surgeon who is knowledgeable about breast implant illness and experienced in removing the implants properly. And a lot of these surgeons are charging consultation fees. So I recommend calling first and asking if this is a surgery they typically do, because some of these surgeons are charging $200, $300 for a consult. And if you're going to walk in there and leave in tears because they tell you you're crazy and BII isn't a thing, and this new study said I don't need to remove the capsules, I don't want anyone to have that kind of frustration. So networking within the groups and finding people that have done this surgery before you and what was their experience, I think that's super important because it can help relieve a lot of the stress and anxiety. So many of our women are so sick that they have lost their careers. So they're unable to work. And when they got their implants, they had a great career. They were working 80 hours a week at Microsoft and they had thousands of dollars to go on vacations. But these women are sick. I mean, they're bedridden and they're homebound. I know women who have literally sold their cars. My best friend sold her and her husband's wedding rings and did a GoFundMe to pay for her explant surgery. It was that bad. And, we have to get really creative in how we can come up with the money if you don't have the money right away. But I've seen people sell their cherished belongings, their cars, sell their house and move into a smaller house or an apartment until they can get back on their feet and get a job and start making money again. But the most important part is just connect with people who understand and connect with a surgeon who's knowledgeable and will take it seriously, because, we can have serious health problems from this if it's not done properly. And the last thing you want to do is go in for another surgery because you went to a surgeon who didn't do it right the first time, because it is very expensive and costly.
Yeah, no, those are some great points. And I do believe, and I'm going to have to look this up, but there is a financing organization. It's for medical surgeries. It's a financing organization. And basically, because these types of surgeries, you have to pay in full upfront, and so there's no financing to your surgeon. Unfortunately. However, there is like a third party financing where they go in, they pay the surgeon, and then you pay the financing over a period of time. So that is definitely an option. I can't think of the name right off the bat, but I'll definitely put that in the show notes, because that's another option too. And again, great point. Like you said, make sure that the surgeon does these kinds of explants on a regular basis. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's surgeons that just do explant removal surgery. And again, I can put my doctor, I've actually had my surgeon on as a guest on the podcast, and she's great. And I can put her information. And Robyn, where can people find you? Where can people reach out to you? What's your social media? What's your website? Tell everyone where they can reach you.
Yes. On social media, I'm very generic. It's just Robyn Towt. And my name is right there on the screen. And our website is www.gpacunited.org. And it's the Global Patient Advocacy Coalition. I'm also on LinkedIn. And, I help patients a lot. Like if they're at a place where they feel like they want to get them removed, but they don't know where to start, you can DM me and I will, just kind of help guide you along the way. I do it all the time. I do it for free. I just know how important it was when someone reached out and shared their story with me. And I just want to give back. And I don't want anyone, I've seen moms suffer and lose literally years of their lives with their children. And I don't want that for anyone. So, I'm happy that I've raised my kids and I have the time to do this. But it's important just to reach out anytime. I'm here for you. I think our emails is on our GPAC website, and reach out over social media. So we'll connect you with groups and, surgeons in your area, and just networking with other women who have gone through it.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Robyn, for being on the show. I know you're changing so many lives, and I appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Digest This. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review in your podcast app to let us know. If you're ever wondering how you can support me and this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family is the best way. This is a Resonant Media production produced by Drake Peterson and edited by Mike Fry. To email the show, message us at digestthispod@gmail.com. See you next time. The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical and mental health advice and does not constitute a provider-patient relationship. As always, talk to your doctor or health team first.
Looking to build a more robust foundation in your health and well-being? From the producer of Digest This comes one of the most popular alternative health shows on Apple Podcasts, The Dr. Tina Show. Dr. Tina Moore is a naturopathic physician and chiropractor, traditionally and alternatively trained in science and medicine. The show features exclusive interviews with experts such as Sean Stevenson, Mike Mutzel, Mark Groves, and even solo episodes covering metabolic health, pharmaceuticals, chronic diseases, long hauler syndrome, and pain management. Dr. Tina delivers the information in a no-nonsense, real-world style, and she has the science to back it up. The Dr. Tina Show is edgy, entertaining, and informative. Every episode will leave you with a new pearl of health wisdom to expand your knowledge base. When you're empowered, you can do better for yourself, your family, and your community. Resilience is the name of the game, and Dr. Tina is here to guide you on your way. Listen to The Dr. Tina Show today on your favorite podcast app. New episodes every Wednesday. Produced by Drake Peterson and Resonant Media.